Hi, Tatiana. I'm getting things
Hey.
set up. I'll be online here in just a second.
Okay.
I hope you're doing well.
Yes, I'm good. I just flew in from Vegas today, so
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
tired.
I can understand that.
Yeah, I did a lot of walking, a lot of walking. I was like, "Ooh, I'm going." I was trying to use Google Maps, and Google Maps just had me going all the wrong way, down all the wrong dark alleys. I was like, no, but it was fun. I made it. I survived.
Well, that's good. Vegas is a very different place. It's,
Yeah, it's always busy.
let's see here. I'm getting us going on the YouTube stream as we speak. And then a few folks said that they were going to be delayed by a few minutes. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. That's ready to go. That's good. Um, but I think that's all close to good to go. Okay. I'll wait just a couple more minutes, just in case, folks said they'd be tied up. But if anybody has any questions for me, feel free to ask. I will, in fact, I'll get my camera turned on here for me. At least I think it will. There we go. Okay. And we've moved it to Tuesday night because a lot of people said that Saturdays uh, didn't work well for them. And actually, it looked like I was going to be traveling a fair amount uh, for the rest of the year on the weekends. So that's why we did that. But uh, but I guess if there are no questions, I'll go ahead and start here. Mute. Okay. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the 10-minute stress reset, which is really just a container for different tools you can use to manage stress. And we'll go through them separately and then show a little routine that takes about 10 minutes to do. That I do variations of this myself. And over the past, I guess, a long time since the 90s, I've known of some of these techniques. Uh, Worked with it. So I wanted to share that. Some of them do use high techniques, but it's primarily just manual techniques. So that's what we'll be going through. We're streaming on Zoom Live for people, and we also are streaming to YouTube. And well, chop off the beginning and end of that and have that up on the channel. It may be unlisted later, but all high customers will be able to access it. And this is what we're going to cover. By the time you're done with this, my goal is to show you a breathing pattern that can significantly shift how you feel in under a minute. Andrew Huberman and many, many other people have talked about this technique. It's also a yoga technique. Then I'm going to show two things you can do nervous system wise that can help you relax. And you can also do that without a high unit. And if you're at the office or something and something stressful happens, then we're going to cover some hand and forearm techniques you can do. For the forearm and hand, it's mainly for pressure points. We're going to go through the couple's three-step method, but an abbreviated version of it, so that if a partner comes home and they are really stressed out, that they can hopefully the other partner will notice and they'll offer to do this. Then we're going to cover a few mental techniques that help you manage stress better because unless you're dealing with physical stress from being in a fight or chased by a predator or tiger or whatever, the majority of our stress is mental, intellectual, and unfortunately, our society has evolved in a way faster than our psychological processes seem to have been able to adapt. So I'm going to share a few techniques for that. Uh, the big thing that we talk about a lot, and we're going to go over that today, is you really can't think your way out of being stressed if you're already locked in tension. Basically, something happens, you tense up, you probably don't even realize you're tensing up. Many times our back will go out because one side is slightly more tense than the other, and then we pick up a grocery bag and it goes out. Well, the grocery bag was just the bystander. It was the fact that muscles on one side of the back were more tense than the other that allowed the spine to shift, at least in a lot of cases. There are always exceptions. But your body reacts to the stress and it can get locked in place. But then when you do get that locked in place, your brain picks that up and thinks, oh, this is tension, something bad's going on. So it actually amps things up more, and it causes you to shift into a mindset that increases the probability of anxious thinking and gloom and doom, cortisol release, all of that, which results in your body becoming even more tense and the unpleasant social cycle repeats. But there are three ways you can break this process. One is breath, two is physical techniques, touch, and the third is attention, which if you are locked in something, being aware that you're locked in it is the first step. Although usually you have to use a physical technique, stretching or touching, physical motion to intervene with that. But the main thing that the catchphrase, I guess, is if you're arguing with anxious thoughts when your body's stressed, it's kind of like yelling at the smoke alarm when toast is burning or something's burning on the stove. You're not getting rid of what initially caused the challenge. Another key thing is chronic stress can kill even good relationships. And this is very unfortunate. I've seen this happen. Wendy and I have interacted with a lot of different couples, and they, hold on just a second, I've got a visitor. Um, they, yeah, this is Jaggy. For some reason, he always loves to hop in when,
Hi,
um,
kitty.
yeah, he's, I guess 6 months going on, full grown Dracula, I guess. I'm not sure, but he's an interesting little cat. But getting back to what I was mentioning, I have seen this happen again and again and again. A person will come home, they're stressed from work, from whatever. Their partner consoles them and listens to them. And that's the right thing to do. The thing that causes them challenges is if that process becomes something that's chronic, where one, or even worse, if you have both partners coming home simultaneously uh, stressed, they start, even though they're helping their partner, they start to associate that time at home and being around their partner with that stress state. And they actually begin to kind of feel slightly more stressed when they see their partner, and they don't even realize it. And I've seen this a lot of times, and more times than I wish I had. And so I'm going to talk about that and some ways to deal with that too. But the well, to cover some research for it, if you just do a simple breathing technique for 5 minutes, you can get quantifiable differences in cortisol reduction, and muscle tension, body stress. Andrew Huberman's talked a great deal about this. We call it the high reset, but it's not. Not many people have done this. Basically, what you do is you inhale and then you take another inhale and get it higher, and you hold it for 3 to 5 seconds, however long. Hold it for longer than you've inhaled, and then you exhale real slowly. And that inhaling and then inhaling again stretches your lungs and sends a signal via the pulmonary branch of your vagus nerve that things need to slow down. And it helps activate, the response. It helps you relax. So that's one technique that's very handy. Another very interesting thing was found when if you were in pain and somebody held your hand, um, it helps you relax more. You can tolerate more pain. But if somebody holding your hand is somebody that you care about, your husband, your wife, um, then your pain tolerance increases significantly. And the better the marriage, the better the effect. So that's why it's great to get massages from other people, commercial massages. They're great therapy. But if in a relationship, if you can do it for each other, you'll get more benefit because you trust that person, and it just produces, a lot more positive outcome. Another big factor, and this is something that I am a broken record to guys about. Going faster, going harder isn't necessarily always better. When you're doing massage, when you're intimacy, all of that stuff. There are four different general classes of somatoreceptors for our neurons, the little sensors they use to sense touch. And one of those basically measures, yeah, he's back, measures stretching and gentle pulling motions, typically about one to two, a couple inches per second, basically. There are different studies that vary for that, but that's another thing that we'll touch on here, basically. Uh, Now the first technique, and don't worry because I'm going to throw several techniques at you, and you can watch this again, and we'll have a cheat sheet for it in the training. But the first technique is just, we call it the high reset breath. It's Andrew Huberman's breath. Whoever's various yogic techniques, there's some Taoist techniques for that. If we all try it together, I've already mentioned it. You inhale slowly through your nose until your lungs think you're full, and then take a second quick breath to get even tighter. Hold it for 2 or 3 seconds. I usually hold it for 5 or 10, and then breathe out real slowly through your mouth. You don't force it out. You just and try to go twice as long as you held it. And again, how long you hold it is up to you. But that, if you try that for just a few minutes, let's talk about a scenario. Something at work happened, or you got a letter that's disturbing, or you got news via email or phone or whatever, that's got you in that kind of hyperventilating, crap, what am I going to do? State, then just stopping and doing this breathing technique will help get your mind so you can better figure out what to do. Because there's always a solution to things. It's just when we're in a panic state, we don't see most of them. And so this is just the first technique to try. We'll touch on this again, but this is a powerful. It's more powerful than you might think. And I challenge you, whether you believe me or not, do this set a timer for 5 minutes and just do it where you inhale till your lungs are full, pull it in a little bit tighter, and then hold it for 3 to 5 seconds or longer, whatever works for you, and then just release, and ideally have the air go out about twice as long, and just see how you feel with that. Now, if you're pregnant, if you have high blood pressure, eye issues, glaucoma, anything that your doctor wouldn't want you to do, anything vigorous, please check with your doctor first. I'm always a broken record about that, but that's an important thing to be aware of because we don't want anybody to get hurt. Now, the eye reset is the next technique. And a lot of people, just like the breathing technique, they think, what the heck is Steve talking about here? Basically, Stanley Rosenberg published this technique in a few books. It's actually Steve Porges' technique and work. Steve Porges is professor emeritus at UNC at medical school, a few hours up the road from us. That was my undergrad alma mater. But he is basically the grandfather of what they call heart rate variability. He was doing it in grad school in the early 70s before they had any of that stuff. But I could spend days talking about what Steve's done. He's being really attacked currently for his theories because he's gone up vehemently against the pharmaceutical industry, and some of his models for how things evolve to get that way, I don't know, but his techniques are rock solid. I've used them on myself, on family, on friends, on military veterans dealing with PTSD. And again, I'm doing that as a client, helping somebody out. I'm not providing any therapy for them, but they're very effective techniques. And to explain a little bit about what's going on, basically, if you cross your fingers behind your head, and you don't have to cross them like this to touch, but the goal is you want to have your fingertips touching the ridge of these two muscles. I don't know if you can see me or not, but basically, if you're touching that ridge and you look real far to the left with your eye, and then you look real far to the right, move it around a little bit, and you should feel a tug when your eye moves back and forth. And the reason that's important is your eyes, when they move, the muscles that connect backwards in connect to uh, well, it's a tendon. It might terminate in a ligament. I need to look at that actually. That goes to the back of the skull, and they terminate right at the base of the skull where the brain stem's coming in. And in the brain stem, everybody talks about the vagus nerve. Well, actually, all 12 cranial nerves are parasympathetic nerves. Vagus is one of them. But the little uh, well, there are many different parts of it. That little part of your brain stem is regulated by blood flow. At least that's how they tell the activity. And when you are severely stressed, the blood flow to that area reduces. When you are in a state where you can relax and manage things, blood flow increases dramatically. Military vets with PTSD, oftentimes, if you do an fMRI of their head, they don't have much blood flow there if they're dealing with active challenges. What Steve found and what Stanley or Dr. Rosenborg uh, refined was if you simply move your eyes back and forth, you tug on that area, and when you tug on it, you pull on two tiny little arteries that feed it. So even if they have been locked in a positive feedback, an unfortunate positive feedback loop where they're constricted and you're not getting much blood flow there, that tugging motion increases the blood flow. And it's also very interesting when the brain goes through its cycles as you sleep, you get rapid eye movement. And never seen any publications on well, I guess you can't really do fMRI on somebody while they're sleeping very easily, but basically that motion is very important for controlling that. And when you increase the blood flow, you wake up a part of your parasympathetic system that's kind of like a cross between a cheerleader, a counselor, and a master fix-it person. And they're like, hey guys, we'll figure it out. Let's calm down. It's all going to be all right. Body, you can start healing now. Many, many things like that. So by sitting back, I gave you a long detail for that, but some people I thought might want to understand that. Um, Hold your head still, touch your fingers to the ridges between your neck where you can feel that motion. And if you want, move your eyes far to your left and hold it for 30 seconds. I'm not doing it full 30 seconds. I'm not counting it. And that's not 30 seconds, but then turn it to the right. Then turn to the left again. Turn to the right. And if you want, after that, start looking left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. And as you do that, uh, odds are, now, if you're severely stressed, you may not. I had a good friend that was dealing with some really stressful stuff, and I showed her this technique several years ago, and she had to do it 6 days in a row before it made her sigh or yawn. What you want is where you get that kind of yawning sigh. What that appears to be is you've awoken that part of the brainstem and a little branch of your vagus nerve that goes down into your lungs to the very bottom part say, hey, it's time to breathe deeply. And the lower air sacs open up and you get the urge to do that deep breath. That's not only good for your lungs and for oxygenating your body, it's a very good indicator that you've activated that system. Some people, they don't yawn, they get a feeling like they need to swallow, like that. A lot of the techniques that I taught a few weeks ago for the lymphatic massage, where you use the Vibe Guide at different spots, they will make you feel like you need to yawn. And there's a very tight interplay with your parasympathetic system and your lymphatic system to the point that they don't really know how much it's doing together. But the sign here is feeling the yawn. So if you um, have something that's been stressful, you can start out with that breathing technique. and do that for a minute or two, and then switch to this. If you're doing it, by yourself, it might be kind of weird sitting at your desk doing that. But this is just actually a very powerful technique. Dr. Porges, I think, presented this back in 2003, and it got ignored. And then the American Psychological Association, at least as I understand, came out with their own variation of it, where it's covered by insurance, where they have this board that has these lights that go back and forth. And it's used for people that, if they even think about or start to remember some kind of traumatic event, it triggers a panic attack. And what they do is they have them look back and forth with their eyes, and then have them think about that a little bit. And eventually, if they've activated that part of their brainstem, they'll be able to think about it and not feel uncomfortable. And that's a big step towards, dealing with whatever it was that's got their brain in that never-ending loop. So it's a handy technique. Now, for the forearm and the hand, some people absolutely love this. Some people don't really feel a difference. It's good for you, based on my opinion, whether you feel a difference or not. But what it is there are basically four moves that you do. The first is, it's called Heart 7. If you, I don't know if this is backwards, but you have your thumb here, you have your pinky finger here, you go down to the base of your hand, you feel down right there, you'll feel the bony point. And if you press around, you'll feel usually a little indentation or area that feels slightly more sensitive. That's Heart 7. If you rub that in a gentle circle, or just press, usually about 20 seconds. You can go longer if you need. For a lot of people, that causes a calming feeling. Not guaranteed, but for a lot of people it does. And you can do it, I feel for the bump, but right there. Now, of course, if you have any cuts or injuries, surgery, don't do this. It will often make you yawn, which again is activating your parasympathetic response. Then do the pericardium, which is the meridians in Chinese medicine do correspond to the different organ groups, but many times there will be combinations of things that are used to help people relax or deal with headaches or deal with a whole host of other things that are a combination of these. And it's what I always like to tell people is, and I know more about the Korean method than the Chinese, but it's a model for explaining things. It's not a complete, well, no, in some people's mind, it is a complete model, but it's a method to explain a phenomenon going on in our body. And it works for a lot of people. But again, Heart 7, right there, right there. Pericardium 6. To do that, go again to your, hopefully you guys can see my hand at least a tiny bit. Go to the base of your palm and go 3 fingers down. So pointer, index, ring finger. Then put your pinky right there. That in the dead center is pericardium 6. And rub that again. It's between two tendons, really. About 20 seconds. And you can do this with your hand down, at the desk or whatever. This is something you can do at work or sitting at a stoplight, whatever. You have to have your hands in a minute, and then you go to the other finger and you can just feel it, or at least I can, with the tendons. Then the next one, and this is used for headaches, stress, a whole host of things. Do not do this if you're pregnant or think you might be pregnant, because it can potentially induce labor. But there's a point, it's called Hagu, large intestine 7. If you follow your thumb down and you go up to your pointer finger and you go back about halfway down, there's a little spot. If you press, it's right along the bone right here. Some people think it's in the webbing in the middle, but it's actually right up on the bone, that spot will be more sensitive. My daughter gets headaches frequently, and I'll press pretty vigorously on that on both hands. And just do that about 20 seconds. And then go to the other point. Again, go down the thumb, go up, go back down a little bit. You'll feel a more sensitive spot. And after you've done that about 20 seconds or so, 20, 30 seconds, then you do your forearm. On your inner forearm, you can take your hand. Now, there are different techniques and different opinions for this. Some people do all sides of the hand. This stimulates the whole run of the heart meridian. And it's particularly important. Go about 1 inch per second. I'm going a little bit too fast. Remember that speed thing that I talked about, guys? Sometimes if you do it here, you rotate your arm, you feel it there. Then do it on the other arm. Left arm is actually more important. If you're winded, your heart's beating fast, you can do this, and or if you're emotionally just hyperventilating from something really unpleasant that happened. If somebody is short of breath, or we'll have them see a doctor, but if you also tap along that, you'd be amazed at how that can help you get your breath back. But again, if you're pregnant or think you might be pregnant, or you're massaging somebody and don't know, ask them. But those techniques, again, they don't work for everybody, but I'd say 7 or 8 out of 10 people, it works pretty well. They can be all freaked out and you say, can I press these points? And after about 5 minutes, we'll be like, hey, I'm a lot more calm, which is interesting. One thing, let me back up here. With your high unit, you can also use the vibe guide. The vibe guide here, setting on setting 1 or whatever. You can use it on those points if you don't know exactly where. That's on heart 7. Pericardium 6. Let's go up a little. Large intestine 4, a hagu. It's a hagu, I think. Not hagu, am I saying? With that, you don't have to know exactly where the pressure points are, but this is a handy technique. And again, these are tools in a toolkit, which I'm showing you the tools one at a time, and then we'll assemble them here in a minute. Now, for your hands and forearms, you can use percussion. I'm sorry, you can use vibration, going up and down on your palms, on your forearms. You can also use percussion. If you attended or if you didn't, you can watch the hand massage technique. There's 7 techniques. Do the hand massage, do the forearm massage. You are basically carpet bombing all those pressure points. And if you do it to someone else, it's usually gets a good reaction for helping them relax. So that's with the high method. I'll default or defer to the class for that so you can see the specific techniques. But if you have any injuries, numbness, tingling, don't use it. Always be careful. But just follow common sense. Now, another thing for high is there are the shoulders and behind the neck, which I do this just about every night because not only does this relax the trapezoid muscles, the termini point for your lymphatic system is on your left side right here. The termini for the right side of your head and your right arm and chest are here. But holding this in the middle, so this vibe percussive head is at the base of the trap and the other is past it. And you don't have it on anything bony or on the collarbone, definitely. And you just move it around slowly. Also, as we say in those classes, cross over, so use your right arm to do your left side, so your left arm can relax. It can make you want to yawn, so that's a good thing. Then I usually go longer than that, but and you just hold it there and you move around a little bit. And then put it behind your on your neck, go down to the base. And just hold it there. You can do it with one hand if you want. And what that's doing beyond just relaxing the muscle is the two larger branches of the vagus nerve come down your neck on each side and go out. And if the lats are extremely tight, lats or trapezoidal muscles are extremely tight, um, it can literally impinge certain branches of your vagus nerve and reduces effectiveness. And it basically tells your brain something's wrong, and the brain tries to send a signal to relax, and the signal doesn't work quite right. There are several studies, case reports of people that have had digestive problems, and they found they were extremely tense in their shoulders. And when they relaxed their shoulders, the digestive problems went away, which it was really interesting how they came to the conclusion it was vagus involvement. But there is something to that. So that technique, doing that before bed each night, I do that, and I also do the vibratory guide, for the facial stuff. Never percussion on your face, never percussion on neck, anything, and only do that if you've seen that class. And also you use your fingers to extend, but I won't go into that tonight because we're covering a lot of other stuff. But it's just a powerful way to physically cause your muscles to relax if you've had a long day. The outer ear and the inner ear. This again uses the technique. You point your fingers or one finger. Just use one finger. You just go around the outside of the ear. And after you've done that, however long, if you really like this, do it a lot. If it's annoying, don't do it. You can also put it in your ear and press forward gently. And that will directly stimulate a tiny branch of your vagus nerve. And if you feel like you need to yawn, you did the right thing there. So I'll go ahead and just do this other ear here to balance it. Now, one thing I want to mention about this technique, the studies that show the benefits for this are primarily where they used electrical shocks. They had a little device that would zap you, and they found that benefit. But we've in-house seen similar benefits. I can't make any claims about that, but you can get transcutaneous vibratory stimulation of different nerves just as well as electrical stimulation, but at least based on our experience. But I did want to point that out that the studies that have been done have used electrical shock, which I'm not a big fan of for multiple reasons. Now, another thing that I wanted to circle back to, at the beginning, I mentioned that it's a tragedy oftentimes where I'll see people, especially if they've been together for a long time, and suddenly they just decide they're going to call it quits. And a lot of times what's happened is they have spent a decade or more dealing with their partner's stress for a situation. And their partner is in a situation where um, they're stuck. There's something that they really can't get free of, and it's just bugging them. So they're coming home all the time with that. And the partner's trying to help, but the challenge that happens is the partner trying to help starts associating being kind of pulled down and stressed with helping their partner, and the other partner picks up on that. And the other partner also, well, they might get some relief talking to them, they kind of get that mirrored back, and that can be the seeds for trouble. But there's a way you can deal with that. Stress can be contagious. If you're hyper contagious, hyper stressed, and you go in somewhere, a lot of times it will cause other people to be stressed. It makes me laugh that when they shoot off the firework, we live on a little island here, a barrier island, and they shoot off fireworks on Thursday nights, and the people that volunteer to shoot the fireworks off, they volunteer for the fire department. They have a T-shirt that it says "Volunteer Fireworks Team. If you see me running, run." It just makes me laugh. But my point of that is, if they were really freaked out, I would pick up that stress really fast. And if you come home freaked out, it is contagious on your partner, just not just through body language and verbal cues and all of that stuff, but the actual energetics of our system that used to be woo-woo, but now as studies are being done on the electromagnetic field we generate, your partner in particular, children and intimate partner will particularly pick up on that. So that's the bad news. The good news is if you make it a point that both of you say, okay, I've had a bad day, we're going to deal with it. And here's the thing, you take turns. So one day, partner A comes home, bad day. Partner B, they arrive, they set aside time for it, put the phones down, put them on do not disturb if they're constantly getting called, and set time aside for it. They do the breath work together, the inhale and breath work. And then they do a few eye movements and they talk briefly about what's going on. Then partner B, the one that's giving, gives them a hand massage and forearm massage or the pressure points. And they use that, partner B gives them that massage. If partner A feels up for it, partner A then reciprocates back to them. Now, that's one model. Sometimes partner A is just spent, and let's say the woman, another man. Let's say the man came home and he's just totally stressed out. So the woman, I'm speaking heteronormative language here, she does the techniques on him, and he's just exhausted. He goes to bed, but then he should make it a point on another day that week to do that for her. So he is giving back that experience because words are cheap, actions are real. And physical touch, when you are consoling someone, you're helping them relax, is one of the most powerful actions you can give to indicate that you care about the person because it's real. And that's just an important distinction. So it's kind of arbitrary. The first 3 minutes, make sure that you're not going to be disturbed, to do some breathing techniques, talk about what happened, then do the hand massage, the forearm massage. You can do the eye movements together, other things. You can do the high massage, and then just spend a little time relaxed, and just enjoy being around each other because you're if you're in a relationship with somebody where you can share those experiences, it's somebody you can trust, and it's worth just thinking you got a good thing. So enjoy that with each other and either reciprocate that night or wait till the next day or someday that week and do it again. Because when partners do that, if it's always just one partner giving until that one partner is just spent and exhausted mentally, and then the other partner who's needing the support picks up on that mentally, that's what sets the wedge. This is a active way to deal with that. And this oftentimes happens when you got several kids at home and you got sick parents or whatever, and job stress and all that stuff going on. But it happens more often than not. It's just called life. Life has stuff that happens. So I kind of went over that quickly. That should be a whole separate class like the three-step method. But if you watch the three-step method, you'll get all the details for that. It's just the three-step method just uses high, and it's pretty effective for that. Now, high meditation I came up, the other meditation is not ours. That Andrew Huberman and a bunch of people talked about it, where you breathe in and breathe in deeper. High meditation, we call it high, HI now, but I used to call it HIGH. When I was in neuroscience research back in the early 90s, I was really stressed about some stuff, and I came up with this meditation, which was kind of a mishmash of different things. Because what I And we have a separate class on this too. But what I realized was oftentimes our bodies are being primed to fight and run. Cortisol is released, causing muscle tension, causing our heart to beat faster. Glucose is dumped. Some people, I haven't seen studies on this, but I was chatting with um, a gentleman just recently in neuroscience, and he said that when you are severely stressed and you get a big cortisol dump, that's equivalent to a candy bar being in your blood, where your liver converts, glycogen or protein into glucose, dumps it in your blood. Why does it do that? Because it wants you to have energy so you can run from whatever it is that it thinks you're fighting. Um, well, so what I did with high meditation was I thought, I didn't have time to go running or exercise. So if I simply tense up as tight as I can tense. I knew about progressive relaxation, but this is like whole body relaxation, doing it sitting or seated, if sitting or laying. If you are laying, do not press your head back into the mattress. Please don't do that. I have done that and it hurt my neck. Do not clench your teeth, but basically take a deep breath in. Don't do this also if you have any kind of health condition. Check with the doctor if there's anything that could be a concern for vigorous exercise. But you take a deep breath in and then you tense as tight as you can. And I'm not doing it as hard as I can, but you scrunch your face up, all your muscles, you try to get your whole body to shake and do that for 5 seconds, 10 seconds. I usually do it for 30 seconds because I'm used to it, just as hard as you can. Then and you have that breath held, when you're finished with that, just totally relax. And then exhale that breath and then take 20. I usually do 60 or 80, but it just depends on your lung capacity and all. Deep breath in. So you're breathing in ideally through your nose. It doesn't have to be kind of like Wim Hof breathing. As I said, this is a mishmash of things. So your lungs are full. You start at your belly, it kind of rolls up. So it's belly breathing, expanding the lungs, and then just let go. And continue to do that ideally until you start feeling tingling in your fingertips and your toes. And what that means is by doing that vigorous breathing and this just relaxed exhale, you are raising the oxygen content in your blood higher than your body wants it to be. And it's bad sometimes to have too much oxygen as well. And you get that tingling sensation. But when you get that tingling sensation, or you do 20 or 30 deep abdominal breaths, then take another deep breath and tense again, just as tense as you can hold it for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, however long is for your fitness level, and then exhale. And when you exhale, you can either start another cycle or you can just pause and just kind of feel it. And the reason I called it high, back then I called it HIGH, also for high intensity. Um, if you do it the way I described and you hit all the points on it, the majority of people will suddenly get this little wave that almost makes you feel high, kind of like a runner's high. It's a very similar feeling. And it's very pleasant. I had to have knee surgery, so yeah, I used to run marathons, and that was my great joy, going out running. But um, it gives you a runner's high kind of feeling, and also, and again, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, if you do it 3 or 4 cycles, which will take you 20 minutes or longer, uh, when you're quiet at the end and you're not going to do another cycle and you're just kind of there, just chilling, you'll get a sweet sensation, a flowery, like a lotus flower blossom sensation. And I think a lot of the meditative techniques, because I've done a bunch of things in the past, well, since I was 8, past 5 decades or so. Uh, a lot of the techniques that describe that flowery smell, that's actually a neurological thing that's going on. Um, and it's very interesting. I could talk for hours about that separately, but that's high meditation. We have a separate course on that. We have some videos free you can watch on YouTube that explain it. Just don't do it if you have high blood pressure, have any kind of recent surgery that you don't want to tense stuff up. Don't hurt yourself. Check with the doctor if you have any questions. But that is another very powerful thing. I'll do that at night sometimes also. I will first do the high meditation for 1 or 2 cycles on my bed or laying on my bed. And then I will do the percussion, on my shoulders and behind my neck. And that really gets me relaxed. So that is yet another toolkit, another tool you can use. Um, and we'll put them all together here in just a second. Another big thing to think about is as important as the physical techniques, but separate, I guess I'd say, is how you are processing what you are stressing out about. Ultimately, unless it's something that's hardwired into us, which fear of falling, things like that, most of what causes us stress and is fear we're afraid of is stuff we learned. And what it really comes down to is you have an expectation of how you want something to be, and it doesn't turn out that way. And that sounds all pretentious or whatever you want to call it. But that's really the truth. You wanted it to be sunny that day because you were going to go to a wedding. And it rained and you weren't happy. But there was somebody that hated that person getting married and they were happy it rained. So, it's all your perspective on it. Now, I can tell you that's easy to say, hard to do. When my son died, I didn't want that. And I was very unhappy for a long time about that until I could learn to accept it. But and other illnesses and all. But it really does come down to what am I expecting out of life? And each day is kind of a little tally of this much good stuff happened and this much bad stuff happened. And unfortunately, our brains are wired to focus on the bad stuff. So it is really, really a good idea to try to focus on the positive. But each of these could be a whole separate discussion, but hopefully that connected a little bit that if you are unhappy about something, look at what you're expecting and think, how could you deal with that? How could you change that so that you could manage it? Another big thing is active fear. Active fear is when a tiger is about to jump and kill you. Then there's rehearsal. Rehearsal is continually ruminating, thinking anxiously about something that's going to happen. The majority of our stresses are rehearsals for bad things we think will happen. And if you just realize that and think, okay, that's not happened yet. You know, again, it's easier to say than do, but that's something I wanted to mention for that. Mo Gadot mentioned, but I'm a big fan of Mo. He was the director of the Stealth Project Works at Google in San Francisco for a long time, and then he's a very, very cool guy. Now he talks about AI and all that stuff, but he has some really, really interesting philosophies on that. He has a book called Solve for Happy, which I strongly recommend you read if you get a chance. But the last thing is Trevor Blake. I only learned this technique recently. I've been very blessed to be mentored by him. He wrote a book called Three Simple Steps, but he's started multiple companies that have been sold for several $100 million each. And he's got a company right now that's valued at $27 billion. But long story about why I'm talking to him. But he pointed out something that I didn't realize, that when you have something that happens that stresses you out, a phone call, message, email, letter, work, whatever, that totally freaks you out, the first 90 seconds, and he cited some study, I didn't recall what it was to write it in here. The first 90 seconds is your body responding. That's cortisol. That's the initial insult. But after the first 90 seconds, any negative emotion you feel beyond that, you are maintaining yourself and you are generating additional cortisol. because you learn to do that because that's how we were all taught. At least I learned to do it that way. It seems. I can't speak for you. I'm not, in your mind. But a technique that he pointed out that's very, very interesting is when something negative does happen, just go ahead and feel it for 90 seconds or so, a minute and a half. And after that, think, well, how can I look at this differently? And he teaches a whole process you go through to actually, he calls it guard your field and control your mind. Your field is the vibe you have of how you feel and ways to influence that. And controlling your mind is not suppressing emotions, but feeling the emotion and then actively challenging it and trying to shift yourself into a mental state that you're much more creative. But all three of these are very cool if they're applied. But again, it's easier to say than do, for myself as well. But I at least wanted you to be exposed to that, to be aware of it. But with this, that is how you can hopefully prevent the later tension. But many times you'll have tension already. And the techniques I've just talked about are very good for handling that stuff. So if you take all these things and you're going to put them together in a toolkit, let's say, whatever stressful thing happened, and you can set aside at the end of the day, do 3 reset breaths where you breathe in, then breathe deeper, hold, and then a long release. Do one eye reset left, one eye see reset right, and if you can, keep doing that till you sigh. Do the pressure points on your hands. Heart, pericardium, H7, pericardium 6, large intestine 4. Do high on your shoulders, and then just keep breathing and think about it. Can I do something? Can I? And if you feel really motivated, try to apply what Mo talks about and what Trevor talks about, for managing that. But this is just a real simple toolkit that you can use, that if you do it when you have stress happen, it can allow your body to work a lot better afterwards. Or if you do it at the end of the day, or if you're in a relationship and your partner comes home, you can do it in a way that doesn't become toxic if the partner is going to be under sustained stress. I've seen that frequently where they're caring for a parent that's, terminally ill, or even worse with a child that's terminally ill. So it's something to be aware of, but it's where you can turn your support into a powerful symbol of that you care about them, and continue it that way, or it can unconsciously slip into something that becomes toxic. So I wanted to point that out. It doesn't take a lot of time. If you are just stressed out at work, just the heart 7, pericardium 6, and I say do the large intestine 4 is a handy thing to do sitting there at your desk. Give it a try, see if it works. You can watch this, on the video later and go through it again. And tell me how it worked for you guys, because I'm always curious and I'm continually learning. But these are things we've used over quite a few years, and they have worked with people. No guarantees, but I've seen it work a lot. So that's why I wanted to share it. Again, if you're pregnant, if you've had surgery, if you've had blood clots, cancer, lymphatic disorders, artificial joints, anything that vigorous massage is not good for, check with your doctor first and make sure it's okay. Always stay off bony areas. If anything's uncomfortable or dizzy or painful, don't do it. Make sure to drink water before and after. Never, ever, ever, ever use percussion on your face, on your throat, on your ears, sides of the neck, any delicate areas. And don't use anything on sensitive areas. Just use common sense, basically. So that's it. Next week, we are going to cover some routines for pressure point and neuromuscular techniques for specific challenges that we've seen people commonly deal with. These will be both hand techniques and techniques where you use the Vibe Guide to enhance it. The Vibe Guide can become a very, very powerful tool for doing pressure point massage. So that's what we'll be talking about next week. Thank you for attending. If you have any questions, I will take us off the screen share now. I think we'll at least. There we go. And Again, thanks for coming. Did anybody have any questions, or was I confusing, or anything like that? And it's okay if you don't.
No, it was good information. I don't have any questions.
Okay, well, cool. Well, if you ever do, just text or email me, and I'll be happy to answer anything I can, or if I don't know what it is, I can look it up or tell you I don't know. So, so that's tonight's class, and it'll be up on YouTube here, or it should be right now. But thank you for attending. And again, next week we're going to go through 4 different pressure point routines that are kind of handy for different things. And we'll just keep on going with the 16-week program.
All right, perfect. Thank
All
you.
right. Well, thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Steve. Bye.
Lisa, have a great evening, everybody.
Bye.
See you later, Nancy. Bye.